Hey everyone, Ace Maven here with a Vox Machina tutorial on the fixed weapon mount, the hammer. The hammer is a guided missile in Vox, and so when you shoot it, you have about 20 seconds where you can guide it before it basically disappears. It also has a function where once you let go of the guidance, it will launch straight ahead at like supersonic speed and make it much more difficult to shoot down, because the hammer can be shot down by any weapon can shoot down a hammer. So I'll show you what the hammer looks like here. I'm going to bring down my scope after I fire it, and I'll probably aim for that dredge over there. So here I'm going to launch my hammer. I'm going to hold down my trigger. I'm not going to let go of my trigger. I'm holding it down. All right, and you see it's going fairly slowly. Now I'm bringing down my scope, and look, the scope is actually projecting the hammer's point of view. Okay, and you see there's my timer. So I'm going to aim at this dredge and then let go of the trigger, and you see that was a good hit. You see that the hammer launched straight ahead. Once the hammer launches like that, I can no longer control its direction, but of course it's faster, so it's harder to get out of its way, and it's much harder to shoot down. So here I'll launch another one. I'm actually going to bring this one up and toward the sky, and then back down again, because I want to show you something here. Sometimes it's nice to hit center mass, but another thing you can do is hit right by their feet. Okay? And see, I just blew off both his legs. And there he goes. Someone else tagged him, so I didn't get the kill. But by aiming it right between his feet, you can blow off both of their legs, and that's a pretty good hit. Now, one of the nice things about that is you don't have to worry about missing. So, because if you're aiming center mass, say I'm at a little bit more of a distance here and I shoot at this guy, I'm going to keep it sort of on him, let go, and there it flew right past. I don't know where it's going. You know, it's gone forever, and I have to wait because it takes time for this thing to recharge before it comes back. So aiming at center mass is fine, you know, if you're hitting, but you know, a safer bet, like here I don't really see where my enemies are. So I've got my hammer, I can bring it up more. I see that drill there, but I see some action over here. I've got time. Here's a rook. Now here I'm at a greater distance, but I'm going to aim at the ground. And I'm going to launch it. Now I at least got one of his legs, I know that. But it gives you sort of a safer, you know, shooting area. And because it does like good damage, you know, it can blow off legs pretty easily. Okay, so I do like to shoot it at the ground almost the majority of the time, unless there's sort of an obvious thing like this. You know, that's easy to sort of blow them in the face, which is always nice too. In terms of the hammer, similar to the railgun, I have my scope set on gaze for aiming, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So these are my settings for my scope. So when I bring down my scope, which is done by tap on my right joystick button, it brings down my scope, and you can see my reticle moves around when I move my head. And it has a certain speed to it, kind of like you set your mouse speed on your, you know, computer. You can set your reticle speed. So I'm gonna get rid of that. So the way to do that is, if you're in one of the menus, you click back, you go to settings, controls, aiming, and then you want to make sure your VR scope mode is on gaze instead of manual. Manual is moving your scope around with your little joystick or touchpad. Gaze is when you move it with your head, and then set your scope speed to 5%. That's the lowest speed, and that'll keep it from sort of darting around on the scope. So in contrast, if I were to set it to 50 and then I brought down my scope, it kind of moves around. It moves around very quickly for fine scale adjustments. So it might be a little harder to control. A 5% is pretty safe bet, but you know, get whatever works for you. And and then you can just make sure and just practice that and make sure it's working. But that 5% is a pretty good one to get started on, and it gives a pretty good feel for, you know, the speed in terms of being able to control where your hammer is going. Remember again that hammer can be shot down. It can be shot down by skyjackers are very effective at shooting down hammers, but any weapon, lasers or anything, could really shoot down hammers.
You destroy Android.
But they're great fun. Also, remember, if you're shooting hammers, it's easy to get lost in your scope. But there's a whole world going on around you, a whole world going on in your radar. Here, playing with the bots and stuff, there's not too much to worry about. But try not to get too lost in your scope. I mean, it's easy to get lost in your scope, and the next thing you know, someone's ramming you, you're surrounded, or all of a sudden you're just all alone because you were just staring at your scope the whole time. So try to remember to tug your head out of your scope every few seconds, you know, check your radar, check your surroundings. Don't completely lose track of your situational awareness. Hammers can be guided without the scope. So you see Robbie over there. You can go and turn it, you know, using your head. It's a lot harder. But you can maneuver it here. So if you want to try to get good at, you know, short range hammering, that certainly can come in handy in those situations when, you know, you're in a pickle, you know, you got someone right in front of you shooting at you and stuff. You don't really just want to bring your scope down and be like, ah, crap. So you can try to aim it, you know, on your own. It's not that easy. But you see, you can do something. Even with this guy, Bender. Let's see if I can get one down on him. Sorry, Bender. He's like, it's okay. Practicing. We'll survive. Let me recharge here. But even at this shorter range, try to get his legs. Oop. There we go. I got one. That wasn't a great shot. So you see, it's harder, but you can do it. One thing I like to do, finally, is I'll start it out without my scope to get it going, and then I'll activate my scope to kind of see where it's going. So that allows me to sort of keep my eyes on the overall field. There's the bad guys, as I was saying. So I'll like shoot it, I'll be like, okay, there they are, bring down my scope, zero in, and launch. You know, that works out pretty well. Alright, so hammer is great fun. Definitely one of my favorite weapons. So that's the hammer.